There are a few moments in military history that just stand out as legendary last stands. And this is one of them. We're talking about a small Belgian town, totally surrounded, outnumbered, and freezing cold that somehow becomes the absolute linchpin of the entire Western Front. So let's get into the incredible story of the Siege of Bastogne, a battle that really became this powerful symbol of defiance against truly impossible odds. Just take a look at this picture. It's late December 1944. Those planes you see, they're C-47s, desperately trying to drop supplies to the American soldiers on the ground below. For days, this was it. This was their only lifeline. They were completely cut off, facing an overwhelming enemy in one of the absolute coldest winters on record. So you have to be asking, how in the world did they get into a mess like this? Well, it all started with what was basically Hitler's last great gamble in the West, the Battle of the Bulge. Now, the thing that's so wild about this plan was its sheer audacity. On December 16th, the Germans just smashed through a part of the Allied line that everyone thought was a quiet zone, too hilly and wooded for a major attack. Their goal was to punch a hole all the way to the port of Antwerp, literally splitting the Allied armies right in two. And sitting right smack in the path of this armored juggernaut was a small, pretty unassuming town, Bastogne. I mean, it doesn't look like much on a map of Belgium, right? But its location was everything. And here's why it was so important. Bastogne was a strategic crossroads. See, all 7 main roads in that whole densely forested, hilly region of the Ardennes, they all met right here. So for the Germans to move their tanks and trucks fast, they had to have this town. It was that simple. If you controlled Bastogne, you controlled the advance. So, as the German surprise attack just tears through the American lines, this absolutely desperate race begins. The Allies had to get troops to Bastogne, and they had to get them there before the Germans did. And this timeline, it just shows you how incredibly fast this all happened. The 16th, the attack kicks off. By the 18th, just 2 days later, the 101st Airborne, the Screaming Eagles, are literally thrown onto trucks and rushed 107 miles to try and plug the gap. But it wasn't enough. By December 20th, it's too late. The town is completely surrounded. This map really paints the picture, doesn't it? That blue circle, that's the American defensive perimeter. You can see how they've been squeezed into this tight little pocket, just desperately holding on as the German forces, those red arrows, tighten the noose from every single direction. They were basically an island in a sea of German armor. And if you think the map looks bad, the numbers make it look even worse. The American defenders, and remember, this was a mix of the 101st Airborne and just shattered bits and pieces of other units, they had about 23,000 men. They were up against roughly 54,000 German troops from elite panzer divisions and Volksgrenadier units, which were these newly formed infantry divisions. They were outnumbered more than 2 to 1. But it was even worse than just the numbers. The 101st had been rushed there so fast, they didn't have proper winter gear. They were running dangerously low on everything: ammo, food, and especially medical supplies for the wounded. And to top it all off, the weather was horrible. Thick clouds and fog meant no Allied planes could help them. And get this, their actual commander was away on leave, leaving Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe in temporary command. So the Germans are looking at the situation, and they're thinking, this is hopeless for the Americans. So they decide to offer them a chance to surrender. And this decision, well, it leads to one of the most famous moments of the entire war. On December 22nd, a few German officers come forward under a flag of truce, and they deliver a formal written demand to General McAuliffe. It started with, there is only one possibility to save the encircled USA troops from total annihilation. That is the honorable surrender. They gave the Americans 2 hours to make up their minds. Now, McAuliffe and his staff, when they first read this, they honestly thought it was a joke. I mean, they were laughing. After thinking about sending back some long, formal reply, he decided to go with something, well, a lot shorter and a lot more to the point. This here is the official letter he sent out to his own troops on Christmas Day, telling them what he told the Germans. And there it is. His official typed reply to the German demand for surrender was one single word: nuts. Can you imagine? When that message got out to the freezing, exhausted American soldiers in their foxholes, it was like a shot of adrenaline. It was this clear, unmistakable, defiant message: we are not giving up. Now, that defiant answer was amazing for morale, but defiance alone doesn't win battles. The defenders of Bastogne couldn't hold out forever. Help was on the way, but it was going to have to fight its way in. And this is where the legendary General George S. Patton just explodes into the story. In what was just an incredible feat of logistics and pure willpower, he literally turned his entire Third Army 90 degrees and sent them racing north through the snow and ice to break through to Bastogne. And then on December 26, the day after Christmas, of all days, they did it. The relief force finally broke through. The lead tanks of Patton's 4th Armored Division smashed through the German lines, and this very tank you see here, Cobra King, was the first one to reach the exhausted defenders, officially ending the 7-day siege. But that victory, man, it came at a heavy, heavy price. During the siege and the fighting that followed right after, the 101 Airborne alone suffered over 2,500 casualties. That's killed, wounded, or missing. Their incredible toughness, their sheer resilience when anyone else would have broken, earned them a new unofficial nickname, one they wore with absolute pride: the Battered Bastards of Bastogne. It's an incredible story of heroism, for sure, but it's also a story of immense sacrifice. And I think this image of a memorial service right there in the snow is just a powerful reminder of the real human cost of holding that vital crossroads. Their stand at Bastogne completely wrecked the German timetable. It really helped doom Hitler's entire offensive in the Ardennes. It was a huge psychological and strategic victory that really did change the course of the battle. But it just makes you stop and wonder, what if they had failed? What if they hadn't held on?